Okay, that's right, sweetie. She put she put an arm around him and quickly slashed double V's onto his right cheek. A cheek so fat it would soon be a jowl. It will be a jowl. She took a moment to admire her work in the chancy light of the projector's color dream beam. Then, blood sheeted down, he would wake up with his face on fire, the right arm of his expensive suit coat drenched and in need of an emergency room. And wait, and how will you explain it to your wife? You'll think of something, I'm sure. But unless you have plastic surgery, you'll need my marks every time you look in the mirror. And every time you go looking for a little strange one of the bars, you'll remember how you got bitten by a rattlesnake. One in the a blue skirt and a one sleeveless blouse. She tucked the two 50s and 520s into her purse, clipped it shut, and was about to get up when a hand when a hand fell on her shoulder. When a hand fell on her shoulder, and a woman murmured in her ear, "Hello, dear. You can you can see the rest of the movie another time. Right now, you're coming with us." Andy tried. Andy tried to churn, but but hands seized her head. The terrible thing about them was they were inside. After that, until she found herself in Rose's Earth cruiser in a going to seed campground on the outskirts of the Midwestern city, all was darkness. When she woke up, Rose gave her a cup of tea and talked to her for a long time. Andy uh, heard Andy heard everything, but most of her attention was taken up by the woman who had abducted her. She was she was a presence, and that she was putting a mildly. Rose the Hot was 6 feet tall, with long legs in tapered white slacks, and high sided t-shirt, braided with the logo of whatever it takes to save a child. Her face was that of a calm queen, serene of untroubled. Her hair, now abound, tumbled halfway down her back. The scuffled top hat cocked on her head was jarring. But otherwise, she was the most beautiful woman Andy Steiner ever seen. Do you understand why what I've been telling you? I'm giving you an opportunity here. Andy and you, oh, Andy and you should not take it lightly. It's been 20 years or more since we've offered anyone what I'm offering you. And if I say no, wait, and if I say no, what then? Do you and kill me and take this? What had she called it? This this steam? Rose smiled. Her lips were rich and coral pink. Andy, who considered herself as asexual, nothing less, wondered what that lipstick would taste like. You don't have enough steam to bother with, dear, and what you do have would be far from yummy. It would taste that way, the way the meat from a tough old cow to root to a what? Never mind, just listen. We won't kill you. What we'll do if you say no is to wipe out all memory of this little conversation. You will find yourself on the side of the road outside some nothing town, Tope, Topeka, maybe on maybe or Fargo, with no money, no identification, and no memory of how you got there. The last thing you'll remember is going into that movie theater with the man you robbed and uh, uh, he deserved to be Andy spat out. Rose stood on her tiptoes and stretched her fingers, touching the roof of the RV. That's your business, honey doll? I'm not your psychiatrist. She wasn't wearing she wasn't wearing a bra. Andy could see the shape could could see the shifting punctuation marks on her. But there's something to consider. We'll take your talent as well as your money and your no doubt fungus identification. The next time you suggest that a man go to sleep in a darkened movie theater, he'll turn he'll turn to you and and ask what the fuck you're talking about. And he felt a cold, a, a trickle of fear. You can't do that. You can't do that. But she remembered the terribly strong hands that had reached inside her brain and felt quite sure that the woman could. She might need a little help from her friends, the ones of the RV and the motorhomes. The gathered around this one like piglet of a snow teeth. But oh yes, she could. Rose ignored this. How old are you? How old are you, dear? 28. She had been shading her age since hitting the big 30. Rose looked at her smiling, saying nothing. Andy met those beautiful gray eyes for 5 seconds. There, then had to drop her gaze, but what her eyes fell upon when she did were those smooth, un, unharnessed, but with no sight of sag. And when she looked up again, her eyes only got as far as the woman's lips, those coral pink lips. You're going. You're 32? Rose said. Oh, it's only shows a little because you've led a, a hard life. A life on the run, but you're still pretty. Stay with us, live with us, and 10 years from now, you really will be 28. That's impossible. Rose smiled. A 100 years from now, you'll look and feel a 35 until you take the steam. That is, then you'll be 20. You'll be 28 again. You'll be 28 again. Only you'll feel 10 years younger, and you'll taste steam. You'll taste steam often. Live long, stay young, and eat well. Those are the things I'm offering. How do they sound? Too good to be true, Andy said, like those ads of how you can get life insurance for $10. She wasn't entirely wrong. Rose hadn't told any lies, at least not yet. But things she won't she there were things she wasn't saying. Like how steam sometimes in a short supply, like how not everyone lived through the turning. Rose judged this one might, and Walnut, the true Jacqueline Jack Jack Lake doctor had cautiously con, con, concerned, concerned, but nothing was sure. And you and your friends call yourself? They're not my friends. They're my family. We're the true knot. Rose laid her fingers together and held them in front of Andy's face. and and what's what's tied can never be untied. You need to understand that. Andy, who already knew that girl who had been, can never be understood perfectly. Do I really have any other choice? Rose shrugged. Only bad ones, dear. But it's better if you want it. It will make the turning easier. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? This churning? Rose smiled and told the first outright lie. The outright lie. Not at all. Oh my god. A summer night on the outskirts of Midwestern city. Some somewhere people were watching Harrison Ford snap his bullwhip. Somewhere actor president actor president was no doubt smiling his untrustworthy smile. Here in this campground, Andy Steiner was lying on a discount store lawn, re, on the lawn recliner, uh, bathed in the head of the lights of Rose Earth Cruiser and someone else's Winnie Bago. Rose had explained to her that while the True Knot owed several campgrounds, this wasn't one of them, but their advanced man was able to four-wall places like this, business tottering on the edge of insolvency. America was suffering a recession, but for the true for the true money was not a problem. Who is this advanced man? Andy had asked. Oh, he's a winning fellow, Rose the Hat smiled, smiling, able to charm the birdies down from the trees. You'll meet them soon. Is he your special guy? Rose the Hat laughed at that and Chris oh caressed Andy's cheek, and the touch of her fingers caused a hot little warm of excitement in Andy's stomach. Crazy, see, but there it was. You got a twinkle, don't you? I think you'll be fine. Maybe, but as she lay here, Andy was no longer excited, only scared. News stories slipped through her mind, the only about ones about bodies found in ditches, bodies found in wooded clearings, bodies found at the bottom of dry wells, women and girls, almost always women and girls. It wasn't it wasn't Rose who scared her. Not exactly, and there were other women here, but there were also men. Rose knelt beside her. The glare of her headlights should have turned her face into a harsh and ugly landscape of black whites. But the opposite was true. It only made her more beautiful. Once again, she caressed Andy's cheek. No fear, she said. No fear. She turned to one of the other women, and paddily a pretty creature Rose called silent Siri and nodded. Siri nodded back and went into Rose's monster RV. The others meanwhile have began to form a circle around the lawn recliner. Andy didn't like that. There was something uh, sacrificial about it. About it. No fear. Soon you'll be one of us, Andy. One with us? Unless Rose thought you cycle out. In case we'll just burn your clothes in behind the comfort stains tomorrow. Nothing vented, nothing gained. But she hoped that it wouldn't happen. She liked this one, and a sleeper talent would come in handy. Sarah returned with a steel consister, consister that looked like a thermos bottle. She handed it to Rose, who removed the red cap. Beneath was a nozzle and a valve. To Andy, the canister looked like a unlapped can of bug spray. She thought about bottling up from the recliner. Okay. From the recliner and running for it, then remembered the movie theater, the hands that reached inside her head, holding her in place. Grandpa Flick, Rose asked, will you lead us? Happy to. It was the old man from the theater. Tonight he was wearing a baggy pink Bermuda shorts, white socks, and climbed all the way up to his scrawny uh, shins to his knees, and Jesus sandals. To Andy, he looked like Grandpa Walton after 2 years in concentration camp. He raised his hands, and the rest raised theirs with him, linked that way in the sort of the crisscrossing headlight beam. They looked like the chain of the paper dolls. We are the true knot, he said, the voice coming from that sunken chest to no longer trembled. It was the deep of the resonance of the voice of a much younger, stronger man. We are the true knot, they responded. What is tied may never be untied. Here is a woman, Grandpa Flick said. Would she join us? Would she tie her life to our life and be one of us? Say yes. Yes. Andy managed. Her heart was no longer beating. It was thrumming like a wire. All right.